of West Oakland. This is Revolution. Today, I have on artist Robert Israel. And before I even ask him any questions, I want to say this on air. I discovered this gentleman. I had a show some months back, and before I hooked up with the great Michael Cobra that did the whole name change and did a lot of different things with the podcast to clean it up quite a bit. Thank you very much, Mike. I would find images online that I felt aligned with the show topic. And I think it was a show about Trump that I had done. And this artist that I look forward to meeting in real life when this coronavirus lockdown is all over, it makes these awesome pictures that I want to say. Didn't Michael Moore take one of your images and share it?
Yeah.
So I took an image and I looked and I didn't look that hard for the name, and I didn't see it. Sometimes you can't see shit in broad daylight. And I posted it, and people started, and I promoted the post. And when you promote a post on Facebook, it goes out on Instagram, and so this image that Robert drew is getting shared. And he doesn't know who the fuck I am. And he doesn't know shit about me. He just knows there's a motherfucker sharing his shit like it's his own. And I'm getting these messages. He's not. There's a tone in the message that's kind of like, "Who are you, motherfucker?" But he didn't come out and say, "Who are you, motherfucker?" But there was some back and forth where we're adult enough to not say it, but the tone in the back and forth was on some motherfucker. I wish you would take my shit again. I'll slap the fire out of your ass. But nobody got to that point. We were able to handle it like gentlemen, and he understood that I'm just an idiot, and I didn't mean any harm. And we've been talking about him coming on this show for a while, and finally the dates and the times and everything worked out. So without any further ado, and with my apologies for taking shit without asking, Robert Israel.
Yeah, that's right. You don't take my out, motherfucker. I'm just kidding. Actually, you did. I think you actually credited me though, which actually that never happens usually. So I did appreciate that. I guess my whole thing was just really like I didn't know what it was for, and I've had political. It's like it's political art, so it's like I didn't want it to be like used in the wrong way because I know it was the Trump one that I did right after Charlottesville of him covered in neo-Nazi tattoos, like his face, like he went to prison. His face.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what you were about or anything. So I'm like, the last thing I want is like my artwork being used in a way that's like just for the wrong, like politically wrong, and you know what I mean, like
Proud Boy shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like attacking trans people or something. I'm like, no, my artwork associated in any way. But no, you clearly you're not that. But you did, unlike most people who usually do take all my artwork, never tag or credit me. So you were at least like 50-60% better than people who do that.
I felt bad, man. You made me feel horrible because I honestly didn't know. No, that's what you're supposed to do. Somebody take your shit.
Yeah, I get that's part. If I don't get paid, that's payment enough. Getting someone to feel horrible. It's like, it's another form of payment.
Well, I saw recently that Michael Moore had like shared. It wasn't the same one I shared, the Trump Nazi one. It was another one. Oh, you had. So I'm going to link, of course, your art in this. And before this is all over, if you can send me whatever artwork you want to use for the picture,
sure,
for the show, let's do that too. But you have some great artwork that isn't Trump related, and that's what really. When I found out who you were, and I looked up the page and I'm looking at your art, everything that you do artwork on is shit I like.
Cool.
It's like Always Sunny shit. It's like Star Wars shit.
The thing is, I'm really more like it's kind of a weird thing. Like, I'm not someone that gets locked down something. Like, there's some artists that just straight up do political art, but that's not really like my thing. I do it for fun. I did it a lot more in the past couple of years. I kind of slowed down.
Hmm.
Something big happens and I feel inspired. It's like then I'll do it. Like a recent one was like, when Trump finally put on a fucking mask. I was like, this guy's like, I'm not gonna like praise this baby for finally putting on a mask, and like this guy's responsible for exasperating this virus.
Yeah.
Um, I made it where one of my earliest drawings I did of Trump was his face as an ass. And I
Hmm.
did that in the summer of 2015 when he first announced his run for president, when he came down and did the whole like Mexicans are rapists, like right out the gate, just full on racism right out the gate. Um, yeah, like right around that time, I did my first like Trump drawing, and it was him where his face was literally an anus. Like his face is split down, but he still has like the iconic pink gross eye sacs that he has,
Yeah.
and his stupid hair. So it's like you knew who he was immediately, and that got around a bit. Like that circulated, and I can't claim, I can't 100% claim that I'm the first artist to do Trump as an ass face. There's been many that done it, but I know I can say I'm an early adopter.
I think I also did. You do the Bernie Sanders black metal thing too?
I did that. I've seen other people did it, and the thing is, I don't know again if I'm the first person to do that. I made that actually for the 2016 when he was running against Hillary. I
Hmm.
originally made that and was like pushing it, but when obviously he was running this time, it just got out there more, just because he's more relevant, so it made sense. Um, so, it's like I do a lot of political art, and then I do a lot of more pop culture art, and I do portraits of people too, like their dogs, and make them into like monsters and stuff. So it's like I'm kind of like all over the place as an artist. I have like lots of different interests, and I do the political stuff. But the political stuff has gotten me in trouble. Where like I don't know if you noticed, like I have two accounts on my Instagram.
Yes,
I
I did
have
notice
one,
that.
and my Rob Israel account, which was my main one, totally got fucked because of like all the political art, like especially when like the Charlottesville thing happened. I was like pumping out like artwork just attacking Trump and like neo Nazis, and I was getting bombarded by them. Especially like when the store, I guess my account. It was like my account was pretty much destroyed when I started putting out, that image that you shared.
Hmm.
I've been shadow banned multiple times for that image. Like,
Really?
yeah, multiple times. And it drives me nuts because it's like, and I see other people post my work and they don't get in trouble. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I either have like people who are ratting on me and like reporting my shit, or I don't know what the hell it is. And I'll see people like use my art. Like I said, like Michael Moore I made one piece of art that was kind of like a joke. I made it actually a while ago. But again, a lot of these drawings end up becoming like, they must come like timeless under the Trump administration because everything's like repetitive. Just everything happens. Well, it's the same shit over and over every couple of months. It's like, so like I don't need to. I have like a Rolodex of drawings that I've done that are just always gonna be fucking timely if this asshole stays in the White House. It's just never gonna. It's never gonna end. It's like a cyclical nightmare. And I I made a drawing around the time. Do you remember the Amen? The what was it? The Amen? They were like these domestic white terrorists that like took over.
Amon,
The
Bundy.
Bundy clan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Eastern Oregon. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
and they did all that. They got in trouble. There was like supposedly a shootout. The FBI killed one of them and everything. But at the end of the day, after time passed and everything, at the end of the day, like Trump or something, or basically pardoned them, or they got away with it.
Hmm.
It was like it was
Hmm.
last year. So I took the Gadsden flag, which is always used by these like chuds, like it's the "Don't Tread on Me" flag that
Yeah.
really started getting big under the Tea Party movement. I mean, it was always something that was used, but it totally got completely co-opted by the right wing during the Tea Party movement. They would use that stupid flag, and it just loses that meaning in so many ways when they use it. Um, they so I changed the snake to have Trump's head, and he's got the stupid tie
That's
on.
the one. Yeah,
And
yeah.
it says like whatever it says on it, "Don't tread on me" or whatever the classic flag. I just changed it to white privilege. And it's the same exact flag, and it's got like I try to find the same font, use the same font that flag has, and put it out there. So I actually made it like almost 2 years ago, and then I put it when the whole George Floyd thing happened, and like cops not getting arrested or getting murdered, or actually what's crazy is right before Floyd was killed, literally the day before. Do you remember the whole what was it, Sarah Cooper and Chris Cooper incident in the
Yeah,
park?
yeah.
I mean, that was like crazy because that was just like some. She's like considered like a crazy Karen person,
Hmm.
and you were dealing with like this situation that was like just fucked up on many levels because he's just this dude who's like a bird,
Bird watching. Yeah.
like, and she's still like he's like this professor. He's like cosmopolitan. He's, uh, you know, probably the nicest person I'll ever meet. Everything, but because he's black, she was gonna call the cops on him for what was her crazy reason too? It was like she was
He told her to
finding
put
the
a leash
dog.
on her dog. He told her to put a leash on her dog, so
Yeah,
he had like dog treats on him in case people had dogs with no leashes to keep the dogs from like biting him. And so
so
she got mad. Yeah.
he was gonna give a lady a dog treat too. I love it. It just makes it even like more wholesome. Like he's just this like nice man. I think he worked for like Marvel or something. His sister works in the industry too. Like, and she just loses her shit. But then and I think I might have put out the Gadsden flag, the parody that I made
Mm.
around that time again. And then with the whole George Floyd thing happening literally like the next day, yeah, I swear it was like that was like Sunday and George Floyd happened on like Monday, and it was just like what, and then everything just blew up. So I put it out there again on other things, and then one day one of my, I always find out when people steal my shit from other people. They'll tag me like it's good because I have like a big reach with like followers and stuff.
Mm.
So I get people who tell me like, "Hey, this fucking asshole is using your art." And it's one thing when it's just a little account. It's like whatever. And I'll tell them like, "Hey, dude, tag me," because what happens is they put it out, and then some big account comes along and steals it, and then uses it, and then it becomes when they use it, it just becomes a meme, and then the
Hmm.
artist who creates it literally like gets no credit from it, none of the accolation from it. Like, so when Michael Moore used my white privilege flag, it was like fuck because he has a massive reach. He's got 1 million followers on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. He's obviously
YouTube. Yeah.
he's super influential. Uh, he's super rich. Like, there's no denying it. Does he stand for good things? Of course. But hey, asshole, ask my permission. Um, or like credit me at least. Geez, like at least I would. I mean, if Michael Moore posted my work and said artwork by Rob Israel and tag me, that would be like amazing. Like that would be all I would need. And I love Michael
Game
Moore.
changer. No, that's a game changer. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's like and then if Mike Moore does that and the artwork he shows that it's attached to someone, you're going to get approached by people. And then it's like, a couple of years ago, so like I said, this has happened to me many times. So I have like zero tolerance now for it. Oh, so I did another Trump ass drawing. I know, so that's like funny thing. Like I actually made like a lot of different ones. Like for a while, it's all I would draw him is like ass face Trump. And I did one that was kind of just I know it sounds ridiculous, right? Uh, I made a more refined drawing of Trump, like a better version of the ass face Trump. And then like somebody tagged me. It wasn't the first woman's march that happened right after Trump was elected. It
Hmm.
was the second Women's March in 2018, where
Hmm.
someone, I don't know how they got the art, or because I did have it in my Society 6 store. Who knows if they bought it and blew it up or they just took it from the internet? I had no idea. But some guy took a picture, some photographer took a picture that ended up fucking everywhere with her holding a sign at the Women's March, a big image of my drawing. And it was in
Oh.
Rolling Stones. It was in Vice. It was
Oh.
several like big like a move on type, moveon.org, or like I don't know if it was them, but it was like several different ones. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And like all my followers went on Rolling Stone's page and said, dude, tag and credit the artist. But it's like, oh, but it's a photo of my art. So it's like, who cares? You know, it's like, so it's like those type of situations just piss me off because it's like, I'm making this art. I get paid for doing art from people, but I don't really get paid to do the political art. Like, I always love when people leave some stupid comment. I'll get inundated by MAGA chuds on my Instagram. You know, I post a lot of words. And I love that word, right? MAGA chuds. So funny. Chud is a funny word to begin with, and but they would like attack me, and they're like, "You're getting rich off of Trump," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like,
Define rich.
yeah, well, first of all, like, I actually have to make some money off of it. Like,
Yeah.
like I don't even think I think I've sold one. Like, I've sold a lot of my artwork to people, like different, you know, or commissions for people, or but I've never. I think I've sold like maybe one or two Trump drawings. Like, I think the only Trump drawing I actually sold of mine was I did kind of like an Atom Bomb parody. You remember Atom Bomb from the
I
Garbage
do,
Pail
from the
Kids?
Garbage Pail Kids,
Yeah.
series 1. That was
And
like the
again,
one to get.
this was the summer of 2016. I made this drawing of it and basically saying that Trump is an atomic bomb that's going to go off. Like people are going to die if he's elected president. I mean, this isn't like I'm not some Nostradamus. It's literally like anyone who doesn't think, I mean, any Republican presidency, people die under those. Like, I know people come back and be like, "Oh, what about Obama? He was the guy who did the drones." Okay, well, you know, okay, I don't agree with it, but like Trump has done more droning than Obama did. Actually, people always seem to forget that, and you know, I think they. I got into like an argument earlier for a second on Twitter with somebody was talking about like how he doesn't like a Biden, but we got to vote for him for harm reduction. Some idiot was like, harm reduction's not a good enough reason. I'm like, I think 170,000 dead Americans from COVID-19 because of Trump might be considered harm reduction. Like, it's kind of inarguable at this time. I mean, yes, is Biden the best candidate? No, but I just can't, like, you can't let Trump and the GOP stay in power. It's like that just opens a whole nother can of worms. But
It's funny. It's funny that you say that. And so I'm Facebook friends, and I say that very loosely, with Bill Fletcher Jr. And big time guy in the political world. And I posted something about Kamala Harris not being progressive, and he pushed back quick. Like, he responded within like a minute of me posting it, like, well, Justice Earl Warren was progressive, like, nah. And and he's a old school socialist, and even he's saying like, hey man, we got to get Trump out of office. And me
I
and
mean,
him had an offline conversation, and to your point, like, I agree with you, like, we got to get dude out of office. And if getting him out of office means Biden's the dude, that doesn't mean that after Biden gets in office, we're going to sit back and chill.
exactly, we shouldn't. What we should do is make sure more Justice Democrats like AOC take over the party in 2022 with more primaries in Congress. Start going after some senators. Fucking challenge Chuck Schumer in 2022. He's up. Like, fuck. I hope AOC goes after him. You know.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the problem with him and Nancy Pelosi is that they're just like, I feel like they're not hungry. They're too settled, and they come from a different world where, people are going to say like, one, they're just corporatist hacks and all that, and yeah, that might be some truth in that too. But I think the other problem with them is that they come from another world where, it's like long for the days where they could go to lunch with people on the other side, and it's like that day doesn't exist really anymore. It's
Yeah.
like, and people like AOC, I think, understand that more. They grew up during the Bush administration. They know that these people are like, they're not playing games. They want power, and they will do anything to have power. And we need more people who need to understand that are hungry. And you need hungry people to like get those positions.
And we need movements.
Well, yeah, of course. I
We need
mean,
movements. And I I don't feel very confident that we have enough of a strong left to push to 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 push politicians further left.
Well, I think like I said, I will make the argument that the United States, we as citizens of the United States, will be better off, especially on people who lean left or are on the left, with Biden in power than Trump. I'm sorry. I know people will say they're going to bring up like, oh, he's a segregationist, with this picture of him next to Strom Thurmond from 30 fucking years ago, and it's like, dude, the dude has been, the problem with him is he's been in the fucking Senate since the 70s. Are you telling the early 70s? Are you going to tell me that
Mm-hmm.
a white guy from the 70s is going to have some problematic records in the Senate? Yeah. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I know people will say not Bernie. Bernie was the best. I'm sure people can find something. Obviously, yes, much better than Biden in every way, but I'm sure people can go through his record and find some things that would be like, ugh, it's it, people, especially people who've been in politics for so long. It's like, yeah,
He's yeah,
Biden.
he's got a problematic record, but again, to your point, I think you got to ask cats the question. Then, what do you want to do? You can't push Trump? I mean,
You can't push Trump where you can't push the GOP. But the thing is
no.
that the Biden that they keep bringing up is not the Biden from 30, 40 years ago. Biden is the Biden we have now is the guy who went on TV before Obama did and in 2012 and said, "Yes, I believe that gay marriage should be legalized." Like that's a big fucking deal. And I think people, especially younger people, forget, dude, gay marriage has only been legal since what, 2014?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like that used to be such an important fucking issue, and then you get guys like Milo on the right who come out and they confuse the populace and make it sound like the right wing was for gay
Mm-hmm.
marriage. Like, dude, those fuckers were like running against gay marriage for years, putting in awful policies that attacked and hurt LGBTQ people, and they're and now what they do is people like Milo and stuff. They use this guy to like attack trans people. It's like that's the new boogeyman they want to use to get their voters ginned up. The new bigotry, and but like the fact that Biden came out in 2012 and for gay marriage and like that says a lot more than Trump. it's a, it's a, that says a lot about like a person evolving. Now people will say, "Oh, it was easier for him to say that back in 2012, like than it would be obviously in the 90s." Of course, but if the politician is willing to evolve in some ways with society at the moment, that's a more important than you shouldn't let the guy who's trying to bring it back to the actual 50s stay in power. Like, which is
No,
Trump.
you're right.
I mean,
No, you're right.
yeah, is Biden's record the best? No, it's not. Like I said, I didn't vote for the man in the primaries. I wanted Bernie Sanders, but here we are.
And that was the interesting thing about Bill Fletcher and I's like discussion when he brought up Earl Warren as a justice. And I think when we think of Earl Warren, he's the justice that presided over Brown versus Board of Education that ends segregated schools. And there was another big decision Earl Warren had during the civil rights era. But Earl Warren is also the racist that pushes to lock up Japanese people and Japanese internment during World War II.
That's terrible. Again, what they did to the Japanese people was a reactionary thing. After during World War II, it was awful. They used it as
Mm-hmm.
a way to not just political like go after these people and everything like that, but they also used it as a way to seize wealth from these people. I mean,
Oh, definitely.
you
It
like
was. It was.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's really fucked up. But yeah, I mean unfortunately what that's like the early 40s and the was it the Brown v. Board?
Yeah. Yeah. That's in the 50s. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's evolution of a society, and the guy is going along with the evolution of society. I mean, it does not make up for the horrible thing he did in the 40s, but the dude doing something better later on that's betterment society and helps for like where we are in society now is because of the actions of a person like that.
Mm-hmm.
You got to consider it. I mean, it's like I don't know.
And that's the problem to me. It's like the evolution of a person, and we act as if whatever you did once is who you are forever, and
Well, yeah.
i.e. the cancellation of people. And it's like I don't really want we don't have to get into that whole shit,
Oh, I
but
can't stand the whole cancel culture thing.
yeah, I don't really
Like,
get into that
no, I mean, I
whole.
can't stand the people that like attack. Can't like they like grift off of it. Like I did an episode of my podcast about it. Like to me, cancel culture is just like it's the new PC culture thing where
Mhm.
like people just say I'm anti-PC and they use it to get like cheap laughs or like.
That's a good point.
I mean, it is. It's just the new. It's the new thing. I mean, yeah, we should be allowed to criticize people. That's, like too bad. Sorry. Like we should be allowed to call out people for shitty behavior and stuff. And like, and everyone, what they do is they quickly jump on and say, look, they're trying to cancel me. It's like no one's trying to cancel you. We're trying to like come out and say like at least like own up to your shit and say you're sorry. I mean, like the thing is like Biden, like, okay, so he run. I remember when he first entered the race, and like people were bringing up the Hyde Amendment, and like he like
Hmm.
ended it. It's this antiquated thing that's basically attacks women, and he came out immediately after and said, you know what, like I regret it, or like he like basically removed his support of it. And again, is it a political move? Yes, of course, they're fucking politicians. But what would you rather have? The guy who is willing to go on the right, or I guess left or right side of history, not right leaning, but where society is going, or do we let the people who want to hold us back and harm us stay in power? I mean, it's
Hmm.
like that's what it's come down to, and I just don't understand when I see people on Twitter or any one of these like so-called like leftist YouTubers and stuff that can like just say with no irony whatsoever like that we would be okay if Trump stays in power. That it like that the environment and the environmental plan that Biden puts through would not be infinitely better than what Trump will do. I mean, is it what we want? No, probably not enough, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. But Trump is putting in all kinds of like what do you call it, deregulations and everything.
Hmm.
I always
Hmm.
love he's like he talks about it to like in his rallies, thinking that people are gonna be like, "Oh yeah, this is great." He's like, "We're deregulating everything," and people like cheer, and I'm like, "What are you cheering for, you morons?" Like they're gonna put fucking lead in your milk,
Fuck
like
your water. You have it in your.
poison us, poison us. Like, I mean, that's what he's telling them, and they're all cheering like fucking lemmings.
It's interesting to me to see this moment because I have cats on the show that are like, well, we don't want another Trump. No, no, no. Anyone that comes on this show does not want another Trump 2020. I definitely don't want another Trump in 2020.
Yeah,
That being said, I think that he's standing on this pile of bodies that you bring up that you can't just ignore. And I think the fact that he constantly looks so lost and panicked, and this isn't the business world where he can try to act like, well, you just don't understand how this works. This is the business world, yada, yada, yada. Like people go, well, I may not understand everything about politics, but I understand I ain't got no work and my cousin died because of COVID. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, I think anybody can understand that. And that's why I think that his reign is just coming to a really, really bad end. And I feel like cats on the left might be hurting themselves a bit by now piling on Kamala Harris. I mean, Kamala Harris has a horrible record, and I am not a pro Kamala Harris person whatsoever. I understand what it would mean to have a woman of color in the VPC. I understand that how important that would be, but on the same hand, I also understand Kamala Harris has locked up a lot of people of color.
yeah. I mean, I'm not here to defend her in any way. All I could say is that I know that we, as this American society, will be maybe it won't be right away, because people always, the funny thing is they always want like instant gratification. And
Mm-hmm.
I think like Trump and the GOP, what they're good at is like creating a full sense of gratification when they're not doing anything, but they get these idiots to believe them on everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we will be better off with Kamala Harris in the White House than fucking Mike Pence or Trump. And again, it's like I know people will be like, "Oh, this is like picking the better of both evils." And I'm like, I just think we're at such an extreme now. It's not so simple as just like choosing the lesser of two evils. One is just
Yeah.
I'm just evil. They're sadistic. Like they they're responsible for 170,000 deaths. That number grows every fucking day. They're responsible for like what 50 million unemployed, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the other issues that are going to go into effect with like the environment getting worse, and they're doing nothing about it. They're horrible when it comes to like anytime there's like an incident that happens in this country, like with like the George Floyd thing, where Trump will tweet something insane like when the looting starts, the shooting starts. It's not even good for the culture to have someone like that. I know people are like, oh, we need, put in some like centrist Democrat that's performative bullshit. But right now we kind of need a little bit of that. We need like just a middling person at this point because what we have is just so bad. Like, do you remember with Charlottesville when Trump would keep on
Yes.
saying like there are fine people on both sides? I love the
Both
right how
sides.
fucked up they are. They'll say he didn't say that. It's like yes, he did. There's little video of him saying it multiple times. He didn't say it once. He doubled down on it. He said there were fine people on both sides, and that's insane. It's like even like no president should be doing that. Like they should be
Yeah.
like, yeah, they're Nazis. We condemn Nazis. Like I don't know. I mean I get it. Yeah, she's not the greatest. I will say from the list of people that I saw that were the potential for his VP, I'm glad he picked her over like an Amy Klobuchar or
Susan Rice.
Susan Rice. I was like, that was never an option. I don't even know where, like, I feel like the Susan Rice thing doesn't even make any sense to me because she's not even like a household brand. She's not like a senator or governor. Like, did she ever even hold office? Like,
Mm-hmm. I believe so. I believe she was in the
okay.
State Department.
It, I mean, I know she worked on the Obama administration,
Mm-hmm.
but I just knew that she was never an option.
She,
Um,
yeah, she's ambassador to the United Nations.
okay, but I mean, like, she was never like an elected official, right?
She's a policy advisor, former public official. Yeah. To 09 to 13. Yeah. From with the Obama administration.
But she's not
So
like
what else she
I mean, it doesn't. It's like I'm saying, like she wasn't like. I don't think people would be like, "Who the fuck is this?" Like,
did?
like most people have no fucking clue who works for the administration. Like someone tweeted, I think it was like, she's like a writer, Jessie Dweck. She
Hmm.
made a joke. She's like a really funny person on Twitter. She writes for like I think she did like the Harley Quinn cartoon recently, which was really good. Um, she made this joke saying like I'll butcher it, so you can just look up her Twitter about like how we should never know who the fucking postmaster general is.
That's a
It should
good point.
never we should never know who that is. It's like it's a non. It's like, but because of Trump trying to fuck with the post office with this scumbag, it's like we know who this guy is.
Do
And
you watch sports at all? Are you a sports fan at all?
not really. I mean, I know enough about it to like get some of the
Like with
references.
football, where they say if you ever know who the long snapper is, that means dude fucked up.
Like there's certain things you should not know. You don't
Yeah.
need to know it. It's like they're it's like when Trump goes after the deep state and everyone, all these like paranoid MAGA chuds go nuts and they're like, you're the deep state. It's like, do you even know what he's talking about? He's talking about people who literally like just make sure the government floats without, they're not really political entities. Like they're not like driven by ideology. They're just like, they're the fucking worker ants that make sure the colony doesn't collapse.
Hmm.
And Trump's going after them. Like, hey, where do you stand on the whole, I always see like again, like obviously the right tries to push the whole like Russia Gates this paranoid thing, and then you see people on the left. Obviously, Jimmy Dore is one of them. I don't consider him like.
Oof, he's horrible on that shit.
I think he's a fucking what they call that, like a bad faith actor. I don't think he's like. He does like
You know what, man? I wouldn't even go that far and say that about Homie. I feel like Homie's one of the cats that I don't I don't think he knows enough to be a bad faith actor. I think he finds out a little bit and goes hella far with it.
I would agree with that, but I've watched his show a couple of times,
Hmm.
and I've seen like how he talks, and he has these like gross sidekicks that were just like, and all they basically do on the show is just like they claim they're on the left, but all they literally like they'll say Trump's dumb and all that stuff, or he's terrible, but all they do is attack Democrats, and it's like, yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, Democrats should be criticized, like, but when that's all you're doing, I don't think we're playing on the same team. You know what I mean? Like,
I saw him do some shit that I didn't really dig. I don't know if you remember when, right around the time Lula was getting arrested, I don't think he had got in jail yet. Maybe he was in jail, but it was right when the Lava Jato thing had like really hit.
yeah,
He had played on his show the propaganda videos or the almost like promo videos from the whole Lava Jato operation, and he was playing it as if it was like a news story. And he
okay,
was like,
that's
he's like,
something.
oh man, these guys are great, and I want to get a Sergio Moro T-shirt, and he's a wonderful cat, and yada yada yada. And I'm like, dude, I don't think you really know what what this is. And Latin America, I think as Americans, we always view things through an extremely American lens, and we don't really understand how the rest of the world works.
Right.
And if you don't understand Brazilian politics, and I don't understand all the ins and outs of Brazilian politics, and I follow it maybe a little more than the average dude, and I knew that there were dudes that got caught up in Lava Jato that were bad dudes. It wasn't like everybody that got caught up in that thing was innocent. They were snatching up some people that were really, really badly corrupt, but the whole Lula getting locked up thing was on some bullshit. And it always sounded like some bullshit. And before Lula, his successor, Dilma Rousseff, got impeached on some bullshit. And I don't think Jimmy Dore really understands what he's talking about to that level. And he talks to people that don't know, and he's their news. And
Yeah.
I don't know how seriously he takes that.
I think, yeah, well, one, he's got to, the thing is, at the end of the day, he does it for a living, and he's got to do whatever he's got to say to, like, I'm sure he understands his audience, you know? Like, I think a
Hmm.
lot of, like, from what I gather, because I know a couple people who like him, they don't vote Democrat. Like, they don't. And
Interesting.
I don't even know if they're even Green Party. Like, they're either like guys who were like libertarian and
Hmm.
just became a little bit more leftist over the years. But they don't even
That's
vote,
interesting.
or so I'm like, I don't know who he really appeals to. So it's kind of like, but I don't think he appeals to people that are like the people that he probably appeals to are people who probably say shit like, I'm not going to vote for either of them, Like,
All politicians are bad.
yeah, that
Like,
bullshit. It's such a simplification. It's such a like they call
he's had,
you ever watch Sam Cedar?
yeah,
Report.
yeah,
I really like them. I think
yeah.
he's definitely like, to me, like, I've been listening to him since he's been on like freaking Air America back in like 2004,
Okay.
and he's been pretty consistent. Like, he's, I guess, considered like a social democrat, like kind of like a AOC type.
Hmm.
I don't know like the full classification, so I don't want to like create one for him. But like he says people like Jimmy Dore, what they do is they disempower people. They make it feel like the person who, like, I want to get rid of Trump, but Biden's terrible too. So it's like he's like disempowering you. He's basically making you think that there's no harm reduction. There's no, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Because he doesn't understand. Like when Bill Fletcher called me out on my Kamala Harris post, and we took that shit offline and had a conversation offline. Like it wasn't one of scolding. It was an OG in this political leftist shit talking to a young buck and having a nuanced conversation about there's a problematic nature of these people running, but now may not be the time to be throwing this level of shade at these people because you don't want to give more strength to the opposite side. And you're right, this person is bad, but we need to start organizing right now.
You can probably get the person that you think is bad more to your side than you will ever get the person that really is bad. You know, like Trump, who really had the funny thing is like he really has no ideology.
I
Like he doesn't
agree.
have one. Like
I agree.
he's just some fucking scumbag game show host who was like known for being a racist back in New York and being a con man. And I always love when I see these idiots on the right and stuff say that he's this great businessman. And I'm like, where the fuck? This guy sunk a casino. Like, in a place where casinos do well. I mean, it's like.
But you know why? But you know what? To that point, and I don't think we talk about this enough. The reason why, so cats on the left go, well, he's really not great because he failed, yada yada yada. But the people that say that he's great don't want to hear that he failed because they just see a rich dude, so they don't really understand that. And I think you got to really hit them at the heart of that conversation. That is, you don't like him because you think he's a good businessman. You like him because he's a villain, and you just want to root for a bad guy.
I think that's the problem with man, fucking talk about like I was thinking about this like the other day when it comes to like culture and stuff like that. You got a whole generation of people that watch shows like The Sopranos, right?
Thank you.
Like
Yeah.
Tony Soprano, who is not a good person. He's not. He's just not a good person. Like, at the end of the day, yeah, you could say he's complicated and he's, is he good to his kids? Yeah, to a point. Cheats on his fucking wife all the time and fucking has people killed and he does illegal shit. He's a bad person. And we watch these shows that try to make like villains deep. And it's not just Sopranos. It was like a whole bunch of other shows throughout the years. I remember even like, I don't know if you're familiar with comics, but like in the early 90s, they started doing things where they would take like bad guys in comics, like Sabretooth and Venom and stuff, and then make them dark heroes. And it's like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like
yeah,
confusing morality. And I mean, like morality. Oh yeah, obviously morality is not just like black and white or shades of gray, but like you get in the pop culture zeitgeist like bad guys and like normalization of bad guys or like the pop making where the bad guys are more popular than the good guys. It's like I remember sort of like Ben Shapiro giving like this rant about Star Wars. And like, I like the bad guys in Star Wars. And, it's like, I like that.
Oh, was that the one we talked about? There's a woman hero, and he doesn't like this.
Yeah. And he's like, the reason Star Wars is good is because of Darth Vader. It's like.
Yeah. Some silly shit.
Yeah, of course it is. But on like a cultural level, and especially with like reality shows, who were always the most popular guys in a reality show? It's always the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that drives the reality show. It's the reason why you watch it. It's like, do you remember Real World?
Yeah, I have some friends that were on it.
I'm sorry, what?
I had some friends that were on it.
Oh, nice. Do you remember the Puck years?
Yeah. A dude I knew was on that.
Oh, that's
because it was here in San Francisco. Yeah.
Okay, so if there was no Puck, there would be no Donald Trump. Like Puck created like I don't know, he was just him. I mean, I'm sure the network like producers were like, oh yeah, let's focus on this guy. And it's so stupid. Like, remember, like he stuck his finger in the peanut butter jar. It was like
the dude was kind of a turd. Yeah. Yeah. He was nasty.
Yeah, he was just a jerk, And
there's some, yeah.
But it changed like the landscape of like reality TV. Like it all starts with fucking Puck, and people will be like, "What? Get out of here!" I'm like, no, it really kind of does. Like, I mean, you always had bad guys, and you had people who caused problems. Like, especially in the real world, I remember there was like people who were like problematic in some ways, but like it wasn't like this where he becomes like a cartoon and like a rebel, like
yelling at the guy that was like dying of AIDS.
Yeah,
yeah.
I know, it's like. And we're like, yeah, screw you, Pedro. Puck's cool. Screw you, guy dying of AIDS. Puck is the man.
It's funny that you say that, because if people do remember what the real world was, even in that year, that was San Francisco. I think that was his third year, second or third year,
Yeah, third year.
and they would go to the city where they were shooting, and people lived there. So back when it started, it wasn't a bunch of transplants from all over that were pretty. It was like regular ass people. Some
They
of them
would be
lived in
in
the
the
city.
industry in some way. Like they would all be like either dancers or artists.
Yeah, I mean, because that's who's going to audition for the real world other than it. But
Right. But
sometimes, but if you remember, the San Francisco show had a guy that's a cartoonist to this
yeah, he
day,
ended up becoming a huge, like a big name, DC Comics and stuff like that. I forget.
and his wife, he ended up marrying the woman that was she was doing her rounds, like her internship, whatever, for
Yeah.
becoming a doctor. And the real world hasn't been like that since, because those people are boring.
Yeah, it was Puck. I mean, even when he got kicked
Yeah,
out
it
of
was.
work, they kept him
Yeah,
around.
yeah. You're right. And they had to have the drama, and then if you really want to go down the reality show rabbit hole, which unfortunately
Well, I
I've
mean, that's
watched
what
my
Trump is.
fair share.
Trump is a reality show, and we could also get into wrestling because Trump is basically a
Yeah,
wrestling heel.
yeah. Matt Taibbi wrote a really good thing about Trump being kind of pro wrestling personified, and using a lot of the tricks in pro wrestling to take down his opponents.
Oh
and
yeah,
and that's another thing that I think he can't do now, because when he did it in 2016, it was in 2015 coming up to the election. It was the first time we ever saw a politician to that level call people names, talk about motherfuckers' mamas and shit like that.
oh
Remember
yeah,
Jeb
all the
Bush's
norms
mama?
thrown out the window.
But now it's not holding the same amount of weight calling Joe Biden Sleepy Joe or Sad Joe, whatever the fuck he calls him. Shit's just not funny.
Well, also Trump looks like sleepy Trump. I mean, it's like, dude,
Well, he's had 4 years of fucking up.
he looks like low energy. He's just like,
He's low energy.
yeah, Trump is low. Yeah, he's low. I'm low energy. That's why he looks in the mirror and goes, "You're low energy."
He wants to have all these debates with Joe Biden, and
Does he
this is
still,
what I said.
or did? Because I know he said that a couple weeks ago, but the story changes every day with him.
He said he wanted to have debates with Joe Biden because I think he wants to prove to the world that he's like better than Joe Biden. And I think the problem, and I know Joe Biden definitely, even in those early primary debates, he looked a little out of it. I will say this about Joe Biden: the motherfucker's been in politics for like 50 years.
It's been a long time. I think he first got in the late '60s. So yeah, 50 years.
So that cat will forget more than Donald Trump will ever learn in a political debate. And Donald Trump debating Hillary Clinton with no record is one thing, when Hillary Clinton has an odious record and she has the specter of her husband.
Oh yeah, she cannot escape that ever. I mean,
Ever.
remember when he invited the fucking those?
The women that had the rape allegations.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
those women are all like. I'm not gonna defend the fucking Bill Clinton. I'm not gonna do that. But like those women that work with the Republicans and stuff, a lot of them have been proven to be fucking con artists.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've been like what's her name? Something Paul. I don't know. There's a couple of them that you know. Who knows? I'm not. I don't. No matter what, it was a disgusting thing to do to Hillary Clinton. I mean, that's just gross. I mean, like you're not even running against him, and you're. It's like you got to. It's like you're like the woman that knows that your husband cheated on you, and everyone in the world knows it. You know what I mean? And this piece of shit comes in
Yeah.
with these women, and
That,
like,
that, but that's that pro wrestling shit that you was just talking about.
oh yeah, I mean, it's like a dude
That's
coming
the
out of
pro
the audience
wrestling
hitting you with a
stuff.
chair.
Yeah, that's the Jake the Snake with the picture of the dude's wife on his
Oh,
wrestling
that was
trunks.
Rick Rude. Rick
That
Rude.
was Rick Rude. My bad. My bad. My bad. My bad.
Oh, it's okay.
But that's that level of bullshit, and it has nothing to do with your policy or your plan. And
Nope.
now that motherfuckers is out of work, we don't know what's going on with this virus. You got all these people dead. You got this cat trying to end the post office, and he's
That's
trying to end
insane.
Social Security. You
Yeah.
can't come out there go with Tara Reid going, who also is not a Trump supporter whatsoever, so you couldn't even get her out there if you wanted to. There's nothing you're going to say to Joe Biden. What are you going to do? Say that he's got a horrible record with women? Trump's got a horrible record with women.
Like infinitely horrible.
Yeah.
It's like,
so what are you going to say to Joe Biden? He's a racist? Bitch, Trump's been a racist since whatever you were saying about Joe Biden.
Again, the argument is Joe Biden, the problem being that he's had a political record that goes back 50 years. And it's like, again, does he evolve? Yes. Is it as much as we want? No. Do we think it's as real as we want it to be? I don't know. But the reality is he stands for this now while the other guy is trying to end it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's...
You can't attack Joe Biden from the right because he's been on the side of the right the majority of his political career.
But, like I said, it's like, it's such a... Yeah, what's Trump going to say to him?
Yeah, what's he going to say?
I agree with
you. You created private prisons, or you blew up
the Party profits off of
like you know what I mean? Like you got us in. You were one of the proponents of the Iraq War. It's like, okay,
yeah. I mean, Trump will make this claim, and he's a liar about that. He was against the Iraq War from the beginning. He was not. No, he wasn't. He was for the Iraq War in the beginning. There's proof that he came out a little later, and said that he thought it was stupid when it was starting not to be handled right. But in the beginning,
the more Donald Trump talks, the digger the hole he digs for himself.
But it doesn't matter. He gets away with it. He's like, you familiar with Simpsons?
Mm-hmm.
The Three Stooges reference? Mr. Burns goes to the doctor, and the doctor basically says that you got the Three Stooges syndrome. And he's like, what is that? He's like, well, you have like every disease, but they're all trying to wedge in between. Like, the Three Stooges walking through the door. So, like, Trump has so many bad things going for him that it's almost impossible to nail him on something. So, like, the media does a disservice. So, like, in 2016, Trump had this bad record, horrible record with women, the horrible record with business. Also, he's a fucking saying racist shit. The pussy, grabbed by the pussy tape got out.
That was horrible.
Ended him like that. That should have he should have been toast right after that. And there was so many new things, and the media would bring it up. Then what the media would do is Hillary Clinton had this stupid thing with the emails that the right would not shut the fuck up about. And then she had this Benghazi bullshit that the right would not shut the fuck up about. And the media would always bring up Benghazi and her emails. So every day when there was a new Trump allegation, then someone on the media then would bring up for fair and balancedness. And this is not Fox News, this is MSNBC. They would bring up Hillary Clinton's thing. But her like what may be wrong, even though it could be disproven, people remember that. They can't remember what Trump's doing because he's just a fucking, every day it's something new. It can't stick to him because he'll just do something else. It's like if something comes out, he'll say something racist to like make people forget the horrible thing that just came out about him. He'll tweet something.
Yeah. No, he's amazing. He's amazing at just hitting you with rapid fire bullshit, right?
Yeah, it's like the TikTok thing, right? He goes after TikTok. But what does he do when he goes after TikTok on the same day, literally that night that the guy comes in, the Postmaster General guy that he put in, and they fire like 23 executives or something from the post office, and they start implementing all this crazy shit. So it's like, yeah, he gets everybody distracted over something dumb like TikTok while he's fucking dismantling the post office.
No, it's again, I think this is what's going to sink him, and this is just my opinion. I don't have any numbers to back it up. This is just an opinion and feeling. I think because he talks so much, and nothing good is happening, and he's relying on what he thinks people want to hear. So I watched the last press conference, or maybe 2 press conferences ago, and the first thing he was like, "Hey, the stock market's doing great." It's like, bitch, motherfuckers is getting evicted.
Yeah, who cares about the stock market? Like, no one who gives a fuck about it. When it does well, you don't do well unless you are in the stock market, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who fucking cares? Like, I don't get it. It's and the thing is, and the best of too, I love when the Republicans and especially like his supporters, they'll be like, well, if it wasn't for this hoax, coronavirus, like they still think it's a hoax. Like you would think after fucking Herman Cain died of it, like maybe some of these Republican dudes who support
They
Trump,
haven't said shit.
you think they
That
would start shifting and saying like, yeah, this shit's real. We need to take it seriously. No, they still double down. Like they don't care.
you would think that one of their own, like Herman Cain, he was a candidate for president on the GOP ticket at one point in time.
Yeah, I mean, he might have been considered a joke, but but he wasn't one of their
He
candidates.
was still, yeah, he was going to be their black answer to Obama, and for
999.
that cat to die of COVID, and they just been real hush mouth about it.
Well, because he got it from the Tulsa rally, and then
Yep.
you started seeing all these MAGA people spreading this thing that he didn't die of coronavirus; he died of colon cancer. Which he
Wow.
had colon cancer and he beat it back in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing like whataboutism. And they're like, what about his colon cancer? I'm like, well, I mean, that was 20. And let's say he did have some forms of colon cancer. Well, guess what? Coronavirus is the one that fucking killed him.
Thank you.
I mean,
I'm
like,
sure
I
it didn't
love when
help.
people like try to they'll be like, well, did that person have like something wrong with them? Were they like 10 pounds overweight? It's like coronavirus fucking
10
killed
pounds.
them. Yeah. I mean, like, coronavirus is the thing that's fucking murdering them. Now, so that's not an excuse.
It's again, it's fucked up to me. What's fucked up to me is Trump could have an opportunity if he really wanted to win. If he really wanted to win, all he has to do, in my opinion, is force the Senate, which isn't going to happen, to sign off on any kind of stimulus bill, another $1,200, because his executive order is bullshit. It's not going to happen.
He'll do it
And
for 2 weeks before
all he did was sign some paper. He didn't do shit. And then roll out health care for all.
Yeah, that'll never happen.
Even on a temporary basis,
Right.
it would change everything for him. And because, like you said, he has no ideology, it would move him in just a different direction. A la Nixon giving you OSHA and pulling out of Vietnam and all the shit that Nixon, all the progressive things that Nixon did in his term, because he was moved by a very strong anti-war movement and movements.
But Republicans back 40, 50 years ago were very different than what we have now. We don't like the people that are Republicans now, they can't be called conservatives. They're not fucking conservatives. I don't even know what the hell they are. But that term to me has no meaning anymore because
I feel like Democrats are conservatives.
I would say they're definitely more. I mean, that's the other issue. I think people on the left need to realize. It's like, okay, you have this extreme right-wing president, Trump, right? Like whatever it is, like fascism. It's more fascism than it is straight up conservatism. Well, guess what? Now everything's pushed towards the right, and the only way we're going to get a shift is if we get somebody in power who's if he's considered center or center left and whatever, that means the politics shift to the left. It's like you got to change the conversation. The only way to change the conversation is to get somebody in power that's not Trump. And and I think people forget that. It's like, well, yeah, of course, like things feel more right leaning because we have a fucking crazy ass Republican president right now. That's how it was when George W. Bush was president for 8 years. And then when Obama came in, well, once the Democrats took over in 2006, that was a huge fucking deal because they were now starting to, we finally got like a fucking minimum wage raise finally. I mean, it was like ridiculous. And they weren't putting like flag burning bills in anymore. They were actually like talking about real shit that the Republicans then had to talk about. So let's say Biden gets into the White House. Well, guess what? You actually can talk about real shit again, real policy. We were able to kind of do that when Obama was president. conversation was about healthcare, and it's like, did we get what we wanted? No, but we did get like, what do they call it? Previous conditions. Like that's a big freaking deal. Like people who were like born with like birth defects that they couldn't control would not get healthcare because healthcare would come at the companies would be like, oh, sorry, that's a previous condition. We don't cover that. It's like, what?
I mean, I know there was some even issues with that, with the previous conditions in the ACA.
Oh, it's far from perfect. I'm not complimenting it, but it was a major improvement from what we had. And if Hillary got in the White House and everything, I don't think it would have gotten worse. I think they would have tried to make it better. I don't think the Republicans would help, obviously, but they wouldn't be trying to like vote it out every fucking day like they do now.
Yeah, and that's again, like you said, that's the problem. This dude Donald Trump is literally trying to not just end the post office, but dude is trying to end Social Security
and Medicare, because the whole like what they call that, like
the payroll tax,
executive order he signed in, like a paycheck tax. What do they call that shit?
The payroll tax. Mm-hmm.
It's really a form to defund Medicare and Social Security. I mean, he could just do fucking that, and like they don't even have to like vote on anything. I mean, obviously, if Biden comes in, he could like write an executive order literally the next day and be like, "Oh, that shit's gone." Like I don't know. I think we're, I think some people, I don't know where they're coming from. I don't know how old they are. I mean, it just like, I don't want to be like, tell some like 20-year-old or something like, oh, you don't know anything. And I'm going to sound like an old man. I remember I went to like, you don't know anything. It's like back in my day, we only had MySpace, it's like,
oh shit. I remember before social media.
I went to this like I live in Texas, right? So I went to this, they called it like a resistance meeting, like after Trump got elected. It was like this, it was at like a local library, and we went to this thing, and the guy who was running it was like, well, we're not Democrats, we're not Republicans, or anything like that. And I was like, okay, what are we doing? I mean, I don't know what this is. Like, and then like this one dumb kid who like went to like UNT, he was like 18, and he says this like stupid thing like, I don't think the Democrats or Republicans have done anything for me. And I'm like, the fuck do you what do you even know, first of all? Like, guess what? Your gay friend is probably not getting his ass kicked because Obama and them got freaking gay marriage legalized and helped like normalize, in the public. Yeah, are gay people still getting hurt? Of course they are. But it's becoming more as younger people, who live in this world now where they're being
now it's a hate crime to assault them, right?
They're being born into a world where this isn't like a huge struggle. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and they can't like fire you for being gay or something. What did it?
You have some rights now. Yeah, you have some rights.
Yeah, and it's like, but some of these people don't recognize that, and that's why like scumbags like Milo can come along and be like, try to convince them that the right is great or something. And it's like, what? Like Milo wouldn't even exist 4 years ago. Like he serves a purpose now. But they said like all this nonsense, and I brought up a point, and I said, listen, you know what? Like the reality is, guess what? Trump's in power. The door is fucking slammed shut. If Hillary was president right now, or was going to become president, yeah, is the door wide open as we want to be? No, it's not. But it's not closed. Like when Trump in power and the Republicans are in power, guess what? That door is slammed shut. Like you don't get in, unless you're like some polluter pharmaceutical company or. I mean, yeah, but
Steve Mnuchin.
What? Yeah, exactly.
Steve Mnuchin.
Like, yeah. Is Hillary like? Would she be great? I mean, I don't think so, but I don't think we would have the COVID-19 deaths we have. I think they wouldn't be defunding the CDC. I don't think, like, I don't think she would be.
You know what's interesting? But I will say this, it's to your point on that. We don't fund public health in general. There's a woman named Lori Garrett who's like the foremost expert on public health in general. Like I think she was part of the team that helped cure smallpox. So she's like OG in that world.
Yeah.
And she admits that the Obama administration had that team that, not necessarily the pandemic response team, but it was like the team inside of, I forget what department they were in, but they were ahead of all these departments because there's so much coordinating that has to happen in the States. We're not like China, where you have this centrally planned government where when the government says, all right, we need this factory to make masks, the motherfuckers make masks. And when you say, okay, I need you guys to ship food to Wuhan because they're all on lockdown, they get shit shipped over there. They build those hospitals in 3 days. You know how many departments you have to deal with to get any of that shit done in the States? Like it's a lot. It's a lot of different people that don't really talk. So there was one entity that talked to all these departments, and they were basically coordinating logistics. Imagine them as like king logistics over all these government agencies.
Right.
And the Trump administration got rid of that. That
Yeah,
was like one of the first things they did.
that's what Republicans do, though. They fucking defund everything. They want to like drown. They call I forgot this guy's name. He's some fucking right wing guy, anti-taxation dude. I told you
Oh, Jesus.
What?
I said, oh, Jesus.
Well, he's from I forgot his name, but he always his famous quote was like about like basically taking government and drowning in a bathtub. Like
Is he a libertarian? One of those libertarians?
libertarian Republican. You know, I always love when these like
Tomato.
I forgot I could find the guy's name, but I don't want to like kill time.
Yeah,
Just
don't sully
Google
your Google search.
just Google search fucking drowning the government in a bathtub. That quote and that guy should come up. Bill Maher had him on all the time and everything, but like, I mean, it's like, what do you expect? Of course, fucking, they're gonna like defund everything and try to privatize. First of all, like, okay, Trump uses like the post office as a way to like fuck with the election, right? But it works in two purposes. Republicans would always love to privatize the post office. It is a piggy bank to them. And that guy that Trump put in power, isn't he like invested in that shit? So it's so
Mhm.
corrupt. I think the Congress is being called back into session.
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi's calling him back.
Yeah, and they need to like fucking hammer that shit. That should be like one of the number one issues that Biden needs to talk about. Because let me tell you, people like the post office and all these MAGA chuds when they fucking find out they can't ship their fucking Christmas cards come November, they're gonna be very pissed off.
Is that your next? Is that your next picture? It's going to be like Trump taking a dump on a post box or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I usually like. I think that's too like much going on. It's just like having Trump taking a dump. You know, it's like so I could like. You know, it's more like this could be used for anything. This image, like I have this like one image of Trump where his ass face is on the end of an elephant, and like I would
Yeah,
pop that out or um, yeah, I don't know.
Grover Norquist,
Any issue
the
in
person.
Biden's part.
The person you're speaking of is Grover Norquist. He's a
That's it.
lobbyist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that fucking guy. Yeah,
My
he.
goal is to cut government in half in 25 years to get it down to the size where we can drown it in the bathtub.
That's it. And him and like that fuck, I'm gonna make you look up another guy. I totally forgot his name, but he's like famous for coming up with like lines for Republicans, like Clean Air Act, and like he talks about like how he gets like euphemisms and stuff, get Trump to, like get Republicans to say things so people fall for it. Like it's almost like double speak. You know, it's like Clean Air Act. What the fuck does that mean? You know, it's like
Mm-hmm.
Republicans don't give a fuck about the environment. It's like it was
No child left behind and stuff like
yeah,
that. Right?
that was a
Yeah.
classic. That one. Yeah, okay. You guys want to privatize schools. And you know, they want to use COVID-19 as a way to privatize schools. You know, this whole like forcing the schools to get open or they're not going to get funded. Like that's all part of the privatization scheme. I mean, fucking what's that? You don't mind if I'm cursing, right? I think you might have cursed.
Yeah, go for it. We've been
Okay, I
cursing
want to
back
make
and forth
sure
the
you're
whole
not
time.
like Betsy DeVos, he put in her, whose like main goal
Horrible.
basically privatize schools.
Horrible.
Yo, she's the worst. Her freaking her husband, her not her
Brother.
brother, the Blackwater guy, Eric Prince.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't
Mm-hmm.
there, like a lot of those dudes in Portland recently? A lot of those like unbadged like soldiers supposedly were like working for Blackwater.
I don't know if it was. I think he got it under a different name now, but they were supposed to be private security people. I had these guys on. You might want to even have them on your show. They're called Left Flank Vets. They're like a group of leftist post 9/11 combat vets, and we were talking about how when these guys talk about I'm removing so many troops from Afghanistan, or wherever you want to remove them from, there's already hell of private contractors down there, quote unquote contractors. Right?
Awesome.
So that's what that Blackwater shit is, right? It's just all these like private contractor cats.
Yeah, it's
It's
like
fucked up.
mercenaries, basically, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, no, it's on some fucked up shit. So that's the DeVos, whatever her real last name is, I guess Prince
and
Way.
again, that shit is elevated during Republican years when they're in power. You know, it's like under George W. Bush, they were doing that shit in Iraq, and then it's like you start seeing that here, and you're like, I don't know. I just don't think that I can't like I don't have like the emotional will to like debate people online that like are just gonna say something like, oh, both sides are evil or whatever. I just can't like what am I gonna do? I'm gonna pull up a fucking article to prove them wrong, you know? Like
Oh, you can't do that.
I mean like
You can't.
if 170,000 and counting deaths and millions and 50 million plus unemployed and potential people that are going to be on the streets is not enough of you to make sure Trump is gone, I don't know what will. Like
Yeah.
like I mean that sucks that's what it's come to. I don't know what will get you. It's really strange. I like I'm sorry. I'm not going to sit here and argue Marxist theory. Like you think I'm some fucking boomer neolib? Go ahead, call me that. I don't. You don't know what that means.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not. I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that, Rob. I'm not going to sit here and talk to you about season and means of production if you're on some Trump bullshit. I'm going to look you right in the eye and be like, I work with, when I'm not doing this shit, I work with the unhoused population. And I don't just work with the unhoused population, I work with the most vulnerable of them. So elderly, unhoused, and severe mental illness and chronic homelessness.
So it's
And
yeah. Go ahead.
go ahead. No, no,
No,
you
no,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I
Ask
like
your
to
question.
make a Ben Carson joke. Like
Oh,
he's been a huge help. I'm assuming, right?
no, he hasn't. But no, he hasn't. But
No.
before him, Julian Castro wasn't a big help either.
Oh, really?
So, oh no, HUD is actually had been problematic for decades,
Oh,
and
I'm sure. I'm sure it is.
the way we look at like urban development, again, when you talk about growing up in the '80s, like you and I really did, and you talk about these movies like Wall Street, where greed is good, and the Trumps of the world, and all these home wreckers of the world have come in with every scandal. You had cats that made monies during the savings and loan scandals on getting a bunch of cheap property from the government with these crazy ass deals where the government's paying for their losses. And that happened in 2008 or whatever
And that's with the
when
crash, right?
the crash happened. But there's also, people always forget about the savings and loan scandal that happened in the '80s that also happened again, or that happened first. I forget the names of the people that were involved that made gajillions of dollars off that. Um, it, I don't have to get into Marxist theory to just tell you the truth of what it is. Like, not everybody that's homeless is homeless because they're lazy.
Oh no, of
I,
course not. No, that's
you
like
know,
they're the victim of like so many different circumstances, and a lot of it is not in their control.
no, it's and that can't. And also, I stay across the street from. Have you ever seen Bruce Riley's movie Sorry to Bother You?
Yeah, that movie's great.
Okay, there's a scene where a lot of the sets they built were in the studio that I'm in. And across this, there's a scene with the guys. The movie starting out, the guys driving down the street. That's my street,
Oh,
and there's
nice.
like all these homeless camps. There's so many homeless camps now. There's so many people living on the street now. You can't even reshoot that scene because there's people living in the middle of the street.
Oh, I can imagine it's gotten so much worse.
And so that's real shit, and that all doesn't come from just lazy motherfuckers. I see people that get up in the morning and go to work, they live in their car or their
Oh,
RV.
I mean, that's what's fucked up too. It's like, dude, if you work and you can't, and you're living in your fucking car, there's something wrong. It's not your fault, society. Like you're doing. No one. Oh, raise yourself by your bootstraps. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
Like if you're working for X amount of hours and everything, and you're living in your car. I mean, unless you like have a severe drug addiction or bad with money, which that's very specific. That's not like I hate when people like bring up one person and demonize a whole group of people. Which is like what number one thing like right wingers do. They'll like bring up one
Mhm.
name and they'll be like, "Oh, look at here," and it's like, yeah, that doesn't. It was like under Reagan, it was the welfare queens. They would just find like one story of some woman that took advantage of the situation. And it's like, okay,
She was the face of everybody, right?
yeah, like oh, clearly it's everyone. Or they, honestly, end of the day, they could just make it up. They don't even have to have a real person. They could just like say something or distort what make something worse than what it is, and they'll just use that and run on it. The bullshit has never stopped them from like getting something sold to people. Um, yeah, no, our society is kind of fucked up. Like,
Oh, it's hell. It's heartbreaking, man, and it's sad to see because again, here I am I work in one of the emergency shelters we have here in California. The governor said that he's going to take these hotels that aren't being used and put the unhoused populations in them. And there's a lot that goes on with what hotels have people in them and which ones don't. But anyway, I'm not going to get into the politics, all that shit. But I work in one of those hotels, and it's a rough job because you are face to face with like, damn, you really want to get better, but it's hard to want to get better when there's not a lot of opportunities for you.
right.
God forbid you get a felony. Whew.
Oh well,
You know
that
what I mean?
our country is possibly the worst when it comes to what we do with our like people who serve time. Like your life is pretty. It's like you never get to leave prison. Really, you can't get work after. Companies don't want to hire you. If it's on your record, like even if you,
Or there's like certain places want to hire you. You know what I mean? There's only certain things you can do, and
yeah,
not everybody that gets out of prison is going to be a public speaker or want to work in rehabilitation. Some people just want to go back to working a regular ass
they
job.
just want to live a regular life. They don't want to have to be a freaking activist. They don't want to have to be like something.
Yeah,
Like they just like, can I just like go work here, then go to a game once in a while, go out to eat
yeah.
once in a while. Like, I just want to be like a regular Joe. I don't want to have to be like, I have to like fucking become this activist to get something. And
For
it's,
the world to respect me.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it's, I mean, that goes into like a whole, like a lot of stuff that's beyond my, like,
Hmm.
what was it called? Like the prison industrial complex. And there was a great documentary on Netflix not too long ago.
13th.
That's it. Yeah. That was really
Hmm.
good. Um, I mean, they basically talk. I mean, and let me make sure I'm not screwing this up. Wasn't it like basically saying it was like almost like a way to keep slavery going in the
Uh
United
huh.
States?
Convict leasing.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, what?
Convict leasing. The
Yeah.
13th and 14th Amendment had the caveats. Uh, that documentary was made to be a companion piece to Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow.
Okay.
And I have friends that are on the prison abolitionist side that have worked with people like Angela Davis that say that 13th didn't really go far enough and paints a very different picture of the real problem with prisons, which isn't private prisons, because it definitely gets into private prisons. And private prisons are kind of the minority of prisons. There's more state run prisons. And it's not so much nonviolent drug offenders that are the majority, it is actually violent offenders. So if you ever watch that documentary or read that book, there's another really good book by a man named James Former Jr. called Locking Up Our Own that talks more about violent drug offenders. And laws that we've passed that have actually hurt ourselves. And the book starts off. He's a black man, and he was a public defender in D.C. and he's trying to keep a kid off that's got his first violent offense. He robbed somebody and had a gun. I forget if the gun was loaded or not, but he says at the trial, the judge is black, the DA is black, of course his client's black, the bailiff's black, the cop that arrested him is black. And he's like hitting him like, okay, so there's some issues here that we need to discuss and unpack, if you will. And his book definitely does a great job of kind of talking about.
Well, I mean, sometimes I think like, you know, when say like something doesn't go far enough. I mean, I think like sometimes those type of movies can serve a good like a purpose. Like if 10 people watch it and like out of those 10, just one of them gets more involved because of that. Like the movie's a
That's how I'm on your side. I mean, my homie was kind of like, kind of going off of him. Like, look, if it wasn't for this movie and this book, or for the book first, I wasn't going to read Locking Up Our Own, and I wasn't going to go deeper down the rabbit hole of like Angela Davis stuff and Ruth Gilmore stuff. And so I needed that intro drug to kind of
it's like
open my eyes.
2003, like I would start reading like I picked up like a Michael Moore book, and I picked up this is like right around the time of the Iraq War and everything in 2002. I was like, I knew that Bush was going to start a war with Iraq from date. I knew it before he was president. I remember talking to someone, and I'm like, when I saw that he was running, I'm like, this fucker's going to start a war with Iraq. I'm like, it's like
finish his daddy's job,
yeah,
right?
I knew it. I'm like, this isn't like and after 9/11, I was like, he's going to fucking use it as like an excuse. It doesn't make any sense, and people were all falling for it. And you know, I started reading like a Michael Moore book and like even like a freaking Al Franken book, you know, about like it was called like Lying Liars or something. It was about like people like about Fox News and Sean Hannity and like how horrible they are and what they do in politics. And you know, I know people will probably be like, "Oh yeah, it doesn't go far enough in any way." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it got me into like reading other things." You know, I started reading like Chomsky at the time, and then I read like people from the United States, and I just started reading like other writers and reading like What's the Matter with Kansas, which is a great book.
Oh, Thomas Frank, yeah.
Like that book, I always anytime you see like a Democrat nominee or something do something stupid, you should be like, asshole. Read What's the Matter. Stop trying to become a Republican light. Like they're never gonna vote for you. Like such a good book, like in that aspect. Like they talk one of his like major, you know, I read like it started getting me into reading like other things. You need that introduction, you know. You need, you know, and the thing that's an introduction is usually not going to be the most in depth and complicated thing. You know, you gotta get people. If you overload them too much, they'll be like, "What?" and they'll glaze over.
Oh yeah, that's what I said. This show isn't. You know, I'm blessed to have some of the cats on like yourself on here, but it's for people to get interested and go, okay, these two dudes are having this very comfortable conversation about this. Maybe I should read a little bit more into it.
Right. Yeah,
so that's
cool.
all.
Hey, did you see like speaking of like people freaking out on Twitter? I need to like get off of that.
I know your time is limited. What's your beef with Garfield, man?
Yeah.
You got beef with the creator of Garfield?
Garfield.
Oh, I thought that guy.
He's not the creator of Garfield. That was a joke.
What's your beef with
John
Dilbert?
Adams is the creator of Dilbert. So like, yeah. So okay. So people make fun of Scott Adams by saying that he's if you call him like the creator of Garfield, he gets like super pissed. It's kind of funny.
Yes,
so Scott Adams is like he's the creator of Dilbert. Remember Dilbert? Okay, so he over the years he's just become this like just like a right wing chud personality. Like he's just like, you know, he's probably getting into like the grifting right wing grifting circuit, and over the years he's just gotten more and more
Word.
involved, and like now he like considers himself like a hypnotist or something. I forgot. There's a word for it. So he just tweets these like horrible things and this ridiculous shit. He's just he said something stupid about like this was during the whole George Floyd thing, that he was his show was canceled by UPN because he was the only white man on it, and it was like the most ridiculous. First of all, he was like lying on so many levels, and it's like,
So
dude,
the
your show got
Dilbert
canceled
guy
because no one was watching it.
is a okay, because I saw you post something about
it Yeah, he's like a total like MAGA
Word.
chard. Like he's become like supposedly I
Fuck
guess
with
he
the
was at like
investigator.
Charlottesville too, like investigating, which is like bullshit. He was like, yeah, I don't know. Trying to find the manager of Antifa, and he and he said something really stupid recently. I mean, he said lots of stupid things. Like he said that the Joker was the reason like people are becoming or
Like that's what they
protesting,
needed.
and I'm like, what? I'm like, people have been protesting for years. This is a fucking Joker. So I tweeted back at him and said, I worked in an office work once. It must have been from reading a Dilbert comic. It's like he said something really dumb recently about like how Trump never said find people on both sides. And he said that people are lying. And I was like, no, you're a fucking liar. He did say that. He said it multiple times. And I just tweeted at him, and I just started getting like a bunch of chuds coming on me and saying just all kinds of nonsense. Like I can't
Do you
even
respond?
reply to
Do
like
you respond to the people
97
that
of
have
them
stuff
because
to say
it's
about
not
like
going
your
to go
artwork
anywhere.
or
Um, I used to on Instagram. Like on Twitter's tough. I don't really get that much play on
I feel you on
Twitter.
that.
Like
I feel you
Twitter's
on
only
that.
good like for me when I like leave a good comment on somebody's page. I mean on someone's account.
Traction.
But when I post stuff, it's very hard for me to get like and oh, it's impossible. Like it gets Instagram though, I used to like get into like beefs, and then eventually I just got really turned off by it that I would just start blocking people. I'm like, I I'm like, I have a wife and kid, and I'm not gonna sit here and fight with some dude, some right wing like 19-year-old from Canada about Trump, with a private account. Like, yeah, like some of these dudes are not even from the United States. I'll be like arguing with them, and I know like the joke they say like the paranoia about like Russian troll farms. That is 100% true. One time I posted some artwork, some Trump art, and some dude left it. This is really funny. He left a comment first in Russian, and then he deleted it and came back with the same name in English. What he was about to say, and I was like, "Wow, that is like insane!" Like it happened literally within seconds. I was like, so anybody that tells you like there's no like troll farms or any of that shit, like I went, no, that shit is real. Like there is like bots, there's people that their job is to basically troll people. Like, I mean, there are actual trolls, but
Mm-hmm.
then there's people who are like, their job is to like spread memes, regurgitate the same thing so it becomes trending on Twitter the next day. Like, you ever notice certain things
Yes,
become trending, but it happens at like 4 in the morning
because it happened in Russia.
because it's like happening because it's
So before we go, I
like
do have
it's
to ask
being
you some
put in
comic
by
questions.
the planet.
Uh, Robert Pattinson as Batman. Excited, not excited.
Sure. I mean, I'm indifferent. If you told me he was Batman 10 years ago, I'd be like, eh. But he's done like enough stuff over the years to like validate him as like an actor. So
Some
it's
shit.
it's fine.
I
I
think
mean,
he'll be better than
what
George
is he like
Clooney
the
as far
sixth
as I'm
Batman?
concerned.
What? Well, George Clooney, I think the joke about him, he gets a
I
lot of
didn't think he
shit.
was that
It's
bad.
like
Did you think he
what's
was
his
that bad?
face who gets shit for the Joker, Jared Leto. I mean, I didn't think he was that bad either. He's in it for like 10 minutes, so it's like it's not fair to say we never really got to know how good his Joker would be or not. And the movie itself is kind of caca, so it's like it's kind of hard to like judge it. And I think it's the same thing with George Clooney as Batman. I think on paper, if you said George Clooney as Batman, yeah, that's great casting for Bruce Wayne.
Yeah,
Kind of looks like
yeah.
Bruce Wayne, like a drawn, like someone, like Alex Ross is that painter. Like
Mhm.
if he painted that Bruce Wayne, he would look like a Clooney-esque kind of person. So the casting was great, but the movie was just pure shit. So it didn't matter. You never got to really know if he'd be a good Batman.
Should we
The movie
have
was
a
terrible.
Miles Morales live action Spider-Man movie? And if so, should Donald Glover play Miles Morales?
Uh, totally down with the live action Miles Morales. I think that'd be great. I only think the only problem right now is that Peter Parker they have right now just seems so young that until he's like older, then Miles kind of comes in and it feels more like a legacy type character. You know what I mean? Like if he's younger, I think Donald Glover's too old to play him.
Mm-hmm.
If you noticed in that what was it, Homecoming, Spider-Man Homecoming, Donald Glover is playing a character who's real. Like
He's
I
Miles
don't know if they
Morales'
introduced his name, but
brother,
he's in the movie. He has a small part. He plays the guy who's supposed to be the Prowler. And the Prowler is I think the uncle of Miles Morales, so it kind of like drops a hint at some point. So yeah, sure, why not? I mean, go for it. But I don't
And
think it should be Donald Glover. I mean, he's gonna be
do
the
you
Prowler if
think
anything.
that the
So
Marvel Universe can come back from the last X-Men movie and make a very good X-Men movie?
wait, you
Mm-hmm,
mean like Avengers? Or are you talking about?
mm-hmm.
Oh, you mean like Marvel making a new X-Men series after the Fox stuff? I mean, I don't know. I know people who like shit on Marvel movies, and I'm always like, really? I mean, come on. They're like they're fun movies, and you
I
like
really enjoyed
Avengers,
that movie.
Infinity War, Endgame to me are like two of my favorite movies when it comes to like comic movies. Like those two movies, they're like epic as shit, and and it only happened because of all the other movies that like led to that. Those perfect movies. So, I mean, the problem is that I think people want now, and I think the way Marvel was so effective, where they slowly rolled out everything. You got Iron Man, and then you got a Thor movie and a Captain America movie, and eventually that was Avengers, and it started branching open. But X Men is such a interesting series because it's almost like a separate universe from Marvel.
Oh, I'm asking
Um,
geeky questions, so
even
please feel
though
free.
in the comics, I'm getting like real geeky here. In the comics, okay, good. In the comics, the X Men, even though yeah they take place in the Marvel universe, like and everything, but they always were like kind of treated as their own universe. I mean, they at some point I think they had like 20 different X Men books. It's like almost it's like a separate company. So for the movies to work, I think they just have to like start slowly introducing them. Like give Wolverine like his own movie first or something, or have him show up in a movie like and then lead to. I just don't think that, and if they do the X Men, like fuck, I don't even know. It will. I think it's unfortunate. I think it's just gonna take a long time, and people are probably just gonna want like right now. And I think it's gonna be like 10 years until we get like a real X Men movie with like all those X Men characters
Well,
that
I'm
we want.
excited to see this
So
new
we're gonna
Blade
be old men by
because
the time
I
these
really
movies come
liked
out.
the first two Blade movies, and apparently they said Wesley Snipes was loaded the whole
Yeah, the
time, and
third
that's why
one
he had
was
like.
kind of crappy, right? That was like, well, he was super pissed. There's so many good stories about the back behind the scenes of Blade 3. Blade, like Wesley
Uh,
Snipes himself was super pissed at the
Jennifer
casting
Beal.
of Ryan Reynolds and
Jennifer Beal?
what's her name?
Yeah, Jennifer.
Allison Beale?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Something Beale?
No, no, she wasn't.
She
Jennifer
Jennifer
Beals in
Beale
the
from
Flash.
Flash
Jessica Biel.
Pants? No, that ain't. Jennifer. Yeah, that's it. He was like super pissed that they like casted like these like two white kids, and it was like a movie that was like first film series to have like comic book
Mm-hmm.
series to have like an African
Mm-hmm.
American. So that was kind of pissed him off a bit. One thing, and then the movie was just a fucking mess. And I highly recommend looking up Patton Oswalt's whole all his stories about the making of Blade 3. Like the guy who wrote it and directed it
Oh
had to
shit.
like hire a biker gang because like Wesley Snipes wanted to kill him, and he wouldn't come out of his trailer. Well, when he, like you said, he was totally stoned the whole time. He was like, "Fuck it," like he was super pissed. I think, like I said, he wrote a long letter to the studio, basically talking about how pissed he was. Uh, there's like a
Mm-hmm.
funny image online. You could find it. It's like Blade Eyes or something. It's a GIF where he wouldn't wear like he wouldn't either open his eyes or he wouldn't take his glasses off. So they had to like put his eyes on. It looks so bad. Like it's probably really
I
quick
gotta
in the
see that.
movie, or I don't
I gotta
notice it. But
find
someone put like a GIF of it. It's fucking hysterical. Yeah, the movie itself is just like whatever. It's like I mean, it's not
it.
good. I mean,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
if you like, if it's the second one, I think is like really good, and it's Del Toro. You know, and yeah, Ron Perlman's in, he's great, and it was just really good. I mean,
Let
the
down.
first one's good, but the second one's like blows one out of the water, and then three was just such a like, yeah, it was just like they didn't give a fuck, which was weird because it's like the second one was so good, and I just kind of felt about like what was it, X Men, like X Men One was like okay, and then X Men Two was like really good, but then like Bryan Singer kind of fucked everything and like decided to do Superman instead, and the studio like rushed it. They wanted this the movie
Is that
out,
the
so they
Phoenix
got
one? The Dark
man, what's
Phoenix
his
one?
name? Something Brent. It's the first Phoenix one, not the new one. That new one wasn't very good either. But it's the one. Yeah, I think it was like X Men Last Stand, and it was just it felt rushed and everything. But
Nope.
I mean, in the end of the day, that movie still made like a shit ton of
They give
money,
no
so they
fucks.
probably don't consider it a failure, even though
So
most
they
people
give
look
no
at it and they're
fucks.
like, it's not good. What? No, I mean, at the end of the day, if it makes a ton of money, but
I mean,
I mean,
watch the
studios still
cartoons. I
want
have
the
a
movie to be
2-year-old
good because then
that
people will be
actually
excited for the
is
next one.
requesting my attention. This late evening, he keeps waking up, but we watched the cartoons. It did. It did. It did.
Yeah, this went
He had a
longer than
heart.
your Shahid interview. Well, we're talking about very important things here. I mean, we're talking about Puck, talking about behind the scenes of Blade 3.
If
I
I
mean,
don't ask a
this is the
comic,
fucking
actually, it's probably a
downfall of
comic
these
artist. If I
society
don't
right
ask an artist that definitely delves in comic artistry about these pressing questions about what the Marvel studio is going to do next and the problematic nature of the DC films, then what am I really doing? Then what am I doing?
now. Oh God,
Oh, dude,
that
then
could
we
be a
could have a
podcast
whole
in itself.
episode about
The release the
DC
Snyder Cut people.
and their movies from starting from Superman 4 on.
Superman 4 is a classic. Meteor Man.
Meteor Man is the Robert Townsend movie, but it was the
That
guy
guy's was it
they
Meteor Man?
they,
No, Meteor Man is a
they
different movie.
made up
That's the
that
one with
character. He was like Nuclear Power
that
Man or
movie.
some goofy shit
That
like
movie
that.
was fun.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah, the
Jesus. I
nuclear.
think that was a
Yeah,
Canon
that's
film.
it. Superman 4.
People
Yeah,
that brought
Mark
you
Pillow was the
break
actor's
into
name.
electric blue. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It is yeah, Canon Golden Globus. I remember seeing that in theater
Sounds
with my
about right.
parents. Like I was super
Sounds about
excited to
right.
see it. I think I was like 10 when it came out. It came out in '87, and I just remember watching it, and I was like, I mean, I enjoyed some parts of it, but like it looked kind of cheesy. And my dad like says to me, he goes, "This movie looks like crap," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, he just remembers like the other Superman movies, and like, yeah, the effects weren't like perfect, but they looked better, and the acting was better, and he's like, this movie just looks like a low budget movie. And I look it up years later, and I'm like, oh shit. And my dad was like, right just from watching it, but it was
Cyborg,
produced by these brothers who made like the shit out movies
Death
throughout
Wish
the
4,
80s. They made like
Delta Force.
they made like a bunch of crappy like
They also
Chuck
did
Norris
my
movies,
favorite movie, Ninja 3: The
but
Domination.
they did the Breakin' movies.
Yep, Electric Boogaloo.
There's a great documentary
Which I
where
went to the
it's
movies to
all
go see
like
that.
which is the name of Breaking 2.
Mm-hmm. That's the second one because the first
Is
one's
that
where
the
he
one when the
dances
guy
with
starts
the broom.
dancing on the ceiling, or is that the first one? But the thing is, in the end of that movie,
Miracles.
they go on a
It's
like it's all
called
about like saving a
Miracles.
rec center, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry, what? The place they want to save, right? See, the thing is, we need more movies about that. Where and we can wrap this up. This would be like a good way
Mm-hmm.
to like tie politics and everything. You know, I was saying like there's like movies about villains and like TV shows, and it's like it's almost like why we have Donald Trump. It's like normalizing bad people. Where show movies like Breaking, where it's about people trying to keep a
They wanted to
center
build a
open,
shopping mall,
right?
I think.
Because they're like they got to stop the rich people who want to like tear it apart or something, right? Yeah, which is like a very Trump thing, you know? And it's like you gotta like get those movies out more where it's like those guys, like Trump and his kids are the bad guys, you know, like remember like One Crazy Summer? It's like they gotta fight the kids in the boat race. No, it's true. We need more movies like that where people know that like these bad
and
rich people, like
how did
those
they
are the
save the
bad
center?
guys. You
They
know, we're just like the
organized,
little average Joes, and
they
it's like
rallied together, and they saved the center. And they took philanthropist dollars
right. They
to
radical.
save their center. No, you're 100% right. You fucking win. We're calling this episode Rob
Right.
Israel, Electric Boogaloo.
We need
Fucking win. That's what we're calling it. And you think I'm bullshit. Yep. You think I'm
That'd be
bullshit.
funny. Like,
Then
want to know
I'm
why
not
it's called that?
bullshitting.
You got to listen to it. It's gonna be
All right. Well, I
ready,
want to
man.
play some music. Hang on. Don't hang up.
Cool.